Hi guys, in this video I want to talk about this new jumper T8SG multi-protocol transmitter that's on pre-order now on Banggood, and I find that this is a very exciting new transmitter in the sense that so far if you want to use Deviation TX you can only use it with a Devo 7E or Devo 10 or any other compatible Devo transmitter that you can use, and then you have to put a module in it so that you can use multi-protocol. So this just came out, and it looks quite good on paper for anyone who wants to use the multi-protocol module, because this doesn't require any modification to the transmitter. It comes pre-installed with the 4-in-1 multi-protocol module. So let's scroll through this listing and see what it offers. So let's have a look at this picture. It looks nice, and if you look at the second picture, it looks not too big, and the third picture, yes, it has given you a side view, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4 switches. I'm not sure whether there are 3 position switches or not, but definitely at the least is 2 position switches. So you also have this dial here, so it's basically a 10 channel radios, and it has these usual trim buttons, and you have the gimbals stick, and the also the enter, exit, and also the selection buttons. So let's scroll down. Before I go any further, the price is $94.99 US. So it's a very competitive price in terms of multi-protocol, because if you buy a Devo 7E, it costs you already $59.99, and if you buy the 4-in-1 module, it costs you around $37.99, so roughly around $100, and which is equivalent to what you have for this jumper T8SG. So definitely the price is very reasonable, because you don't have to do complicated modification like this. This is a 3-in-1 module, so if you don't really know anything about soldering, or you haven't done any soldering before, this is very complicated, especially this pin here. So it's hard to do for most people. Even when I did my modification, I only put in standard 2 modules in there. I didn't try the 3-in-1 or 4-in-1 modules in Devo 7E. So let's scroll down further. So these are the pictures that we just saw. The only thing that I don't see in this picture is a USB port. With Deviation, you need a USB port to update the Deviation TX software. But I'll discuss about whether you need an update or not later on in the video. So it looks small enough. If you look at this picture, it gives you a dimension. It gives you the width of the transmitter. So if you look at the screen with the Devo 7E, you can see that the width is the same as the Devo 7E. So if you can see the measurement on the ruler that I put on in front of the radio, so it has the same width and probably the same dimension in other aspects. The weight itself is also not very heavy, And in terms of the deviation software, you can see on the screen with the T8SG, it has the same deviation software that you can find in Devo 7E after you have installed the Deviation TX software on that. So you do have all these standard ones. So if you intend on buying this one, you can use my other videos on how to set this thing up pretty easily. So going down to the description, it says compact. Yes, it's compact, so it's probably the same size as this Devo 7E radio. Before we proceed any further, let's talk about the size. If you look at this picture on the listing, and also my hands holding my radio now, you can see that it's roughly the same size as the Devo 7E. I don't have a very big hands, but you can see in comparison it's very similar. So even the screen, I think, is very similar size. So the trim buttons are located a bit differently. So the trim buttons for jumper is for these two trims are down here, and the exit enter buttons that you have on Devo 7E, one on the left, one on the right, they're all on the left hand side, and you have the selection buttons on here. So the switches are here. So this has the space to put the other two switches, and the dial here. So very similar in size, and the antenna is here. You also have the holder. So in relation to the gimbal stick, you can see that this is different. This one has the silver thingy looking, whereas here this is the plastic one that you have for Devo 7E. So I think they're probably using something like the sticks for the Devo 10. If they use the same type of sticks for Devo 10, then this should be good for the jumper. In terms of the gimbal itself, the Devo 7E has very good gimbals, very responsive and very sensitive. Although the excuse me, although the distance for the sticks to move are a bit shorter. So the size wise is very similar, and I'm not sure about the plastic, the casing itself. This casing for the Devo 7E feels really good, really premium. I haven't had any issues with this so far. So this one is really nice, the Devo 7E. So hopefully the casing and all the buttons are of good quality. So I'm not really sure about the internal storage of the Devo 7E. So let us check. Jumper has 2 megabytes. I think that should be more enough to store a lot of models in there. So let me quickly check the specification here. This one doesn't say much, but I think with 2 megabytes you shouldn't worry about how many models that you can save with your jumper. So scrolling to this specification, you can see that it uses 2S LiPo, which is the same as the Devo 7E, channel 10 channels, weight 338 grams. Devo 7E doesn't say, but I'm guessing that it's roughly the same weight. So the chip is the 4-in-1 chips. So I've now talked about I've already talked about the casing, the physical side of the the radio. In relation to the Deviation software, now that you have already have a pre-installed Deviation software on your radio, there shouldn't be any problem for you to buy with what currently you have out there in terms of protocols. So with Deviation TX, you really need to update once in a while to get new protocols. But if there's no USB port and there's no way for you to update your jumper T8SG radio, it's still not a disadvantage because you still have all these standard Frsky, Flysky, Futaba, DSMX protocols in there, so you can virtually fly any of those micro brushless quad out there now. The other thing that you must be aware of maybe is the range. So the range may be very similar to the Devo 70. I think Devo 70 is rated to be about 500-meter range. So in comparison, it looks really good. And in terms of electronics, if you look at the screen, the electronics in Devo 70 is really quite complicated and looks very premium, but I don't know what all the different parts are for. But as long as they have similar electronics in the jumper T8SG, it should be fine. But I'm just worried that they may skim on the gimbals and the electronics inside there, because if you are aware, you have this iRange X 4-in-1 module that you can actually connect to your Devo 70 through the PPM slot. So if you look at this, it means that if they skim on electronics in the Devo 7E, they can just simply put this in the Devo 70 and put a very minimal electronics in there, and then you do have a problem, because then I don't think it will function as good as a Devo 70 or any other hobby grade radio, because Devo 70 by itself is a very good radio already. So I'll talk about the range, electronics, the case, the gimbals, and the Deviation TX. In terms of modding and Deviation TX, it's not very difficult to update your Deviation software, so don't worry about that one. I have plenty of videos up on my channel that you can go and have a look at, and there's also a lot of other videos on YouTube that you can go and look at. Like I said, in terms of pricing, when I mentioned this earlier, this is $94.99, and but if you are not getting this pre-order, the standard price is $99.99. So if you look at Devo 70, it's $59.99 plus the 4-in-1, about $40. Then you probably have to buy few instruments so that you can then solder the thing on your Devo 70. It's going to take you time. You may destroy your radios. So in terms of that, this is a very reasonable price. But if you look at the current availability of other type of hobby grade radios, then you need to consider whether this is a good price for you to buy into an entry-level hobby grade type of radio. At this stage, I'm not sure whether this is actually an entry-level hobby grade radio. I only know that it has a very similar features to Devo 70. So in terms of this product coming out now, I think it's a bit late, because if this had come out, say, around 6 months ago, this would have been perfect. because the Taranis QX7 wouldn't have been released. This one. So if you look at the price of the Taranis QX7, it's only about $105 now on sale, and it will permanently go on sale because I think they have overproduced it and they have oversupply. Frsky radio is definitely better in terms of range, gimbals, the OpenTX software on it. If you compare this price with what you're going to pay for your jumper T8SG, you're going to realize that it's not so price competitive because you have a better radio in this Frsky Taranis QX7. Well, then you're going to ask me the question, what about other protocols that you want to fly? So if you're seriously looking at this type of radios now, you are thinking of going into this micro brushless or hobby grade type of quad. So you won't be flying a lot of different protocols. You only be flying one protocol of your choosing. So at the moment, the common ones are DSM, the Spectrum, the Taranis QX7 or the OpenTX. Then you have Flysky, and then you have Futaba. So as for myself personally, I don't fly any other protocols now, and I move away from toy quads. So I fly mainly Taranis with OpenTX and Frsky. So in terms of that, if you look at that direction, then it's much better off for you to buy a Taranis QX7. The other thing is that the toy market, toy quads are slowly diminishing in terms of their production. So if you look at the current listing on Banggood, you don't see a lot of toy quads that you will be interested in flying. So I don't believe that you need so many type of protocols to fly different types of quad now. And maybe the most that you need is just a Bayan toy protocol that you can fly something like the E011 or E013. Apart from that, I don't see the need of multi-protocol radio anymore. And also the Hubsan, the Saima, they're slowly going away from the market. They're slowly disappearing, so you won't be seeing them much in the future. So there won't be much toy quad that you'll be looking at. So in conclusion, with this preview of the jumper T8SG, on paper it looks good, it looks really nice. It's comparable to the Devo 7E in terms of the software and features, and it has 2 more switches and the dials, and that's more than sufficient. Even with 2 switches for Devo 7E, that's more than sufficient for hobby grade flying, like SP racing F3 type of board. So of course with 2 more channels, 4 more channels, and also 10 channels radio, you have more options. So on paper, the jumper T8SG looks really good, and it looks very price reasonable. And so it's really up to you of how you look at this and whether you want to buy it or not, because you may want to stick to this hobby for a long time. If you want to stick in this hobby for a long time, you're better off buying something like a Taranis QX7 radio that is hobby grade, definitely a hobby grade radio, and you're going to keep it for a long time. But if you're going to just come in and you want to try this hobby, and you try many different protocols like Frsky, Flysky, DSMX, Futaba, by all means go and buy this radio, then you can try it out. But word of warning, is that this one doesn't have a big range, so you might find that it's very limiting for you, so you can just fly very short distances around you. But for me personally, I don't find that as a problem, because for most of us, we don't fly long distances anyway. So anyway guys, so this is quite a long video already. I just want to give you a preview of this so that you can understand the Jumper T8SG radio, and I hope that this will help you make a decision whether you want to buy it or not. So I hope you guys like this video. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more videos. So see you in my next video.